This is a sports question.
I'm out.
No, Dean, it's actually not specific.
All right. Yeah.
What do you believe is the most boring sport out there?
Baseball.
Really? Baseball?
Sorry, I didn't have to think about that very much.
Curling.
I would rather watch or hear, actually, somebody going, pull harder, pull harder, instead of watching baseball.
Really? You hate baseball that much?
Absolutely.
Baseball? What would I say? I would say... Why you say curling, Mark?
Fucking waste of time. It's just a made up game. Like, why would you? I guess I could see why they call it a rock,
Because it is.
but you're pretty much sliding the rock down the ice, and you got people sweeping the ice.
You
That's it.
understand the game, though.
Huh?
You understand the game, though, the objective.
Yeah, I guess. And then to get your rock as close as possible to the center on the other end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So, you're going to ask me a question. Is that really a sport? Or is
That
it just
is
or is
a
it
really good question.
or is it just a game?
That's a really good question, because, I mean, look at the drinking games that we were doing just a little while ago at Junior's house. Why don't we make that into a sport? It just involves a shot every now and again. Wouldn't that be more interesting for television?
Yeah, you're right. It's just a game. Is it a sport? But it's in the Olympics.
I understand it's in the Olympics, but is it really a sport? Like, even I'll even say golf. Golf to me is more of a skill than it is a sport. It's more of a hobby than it is a sport.
I say darts. How's darts a sport?
There you go. I agree with that too. No disrespect.
Actually, yeah, we're disrespecting.
No, listen. If you can throw darts or you can curl, if that's the proper term.
You look like you were curling hair there, Mark.
Well, I don't know what the proper thing is, right? You could curl better than me, so I assume you're more skillful than me. But it's not a sport, as far as I'm concerned. Golf is not a sport. You're skillful where you can get the ball in the little hole from, but anyhow, your attire you can wear to a club, and it's not a sport, man. Come on. If I'm playing basketball, when I'm done, I got to take a shower before I go to a club. But it's golf, you can just
Go to
but
the-
you're wearing you just straight to or go to a formal dinner or something in the same thing you wore. Come on.
Okay, so Mark, with that comment,
I'm sticking with
that
it.
comment, I'm going to ask you. So what is the criteria to call something a sport, in your opinion? Not overall, because clearly it's flawed. In your opinion.
Well, I guess I look at sports as being something more where it's more athletic than it is just, to me, like I said, it's just curling. If someone can curl, I just look at it as, oh man, he's very skillful what he does. But that's it. I'm not calling it a sport. I'm not calling golf a sport. You got to jump on a fucking thing and drive around. You're not running around like baseball, football, basketball, volleyball. There's no athletic thing involved. It's skill. It's skillful.
Right, but in a lot of those things you just mentioned, you have to be skillful in order to do them as well.
Yeah, but there's the athletic side to it also.
So you're saying
Like basketball, yeah, you can be skillful, but there's the athletic part of it. That's what a sport is.
So you don't. So what you're saying is you don't have to be athletic to play golf, to play curling.
No, you just have to be skillful in what you do.
So you could be an 800-pound throwing a rock. You're skillful, but you're good at it.
Yeah, because those things take.
Okay.
And you guys might be upset with me. I don't see anything different from you playing curling if you playing Hungry Hungry Hippo. Same thing as far as I'm concerned.
Man said, hungry hippo.
As far as I'm concerned, the same thing. You know what I mean?
Skillful at gobbling the most balls.
I just look.
I guess that's a skill, gobbling up balls.
No, I honestly, I just look at the. I don't know. Maybe like I said, maybe I'm wrong, but growing up, I just always looked at as a sport as something to do with you being like athletic, running, jumping, stuff like that. But still,
So now it comes down to the age-old question: is wrestling a sport then?
if wrestling is a sport,
Yeah, because you have to be athletic, really.
what are you saying? Wrestling? Are you talking about real wrestling, or are you talking about WWE?
I'm talking about WWE.
No, well, WWE, you have to be in shape, but it's more for entertainment.
Yes,
but at
true.
the same time, you got to understand these guys are this close from getting injured. It's I guess you could say it's a sport. It's more like a planned sport that sometimes does not
That doesn't go always as planned.
as planned, and that's how those guys get injured and stuff, right? But you got it. That's the athletic side of it. But it is the way what they did is they took it and they made it strictly for entertainment purposes. But there's that athletic side to it, which I would say is more of a sport than like golf. Like, don't get me wrong, I give them respect because for someone to be how many yards back and getting that ball in with like 2 or 3 shots, that's amazing. But it's not a fucking sport.
So what about table tennis and badminton? What
Those could be considered sports.
those can be considered
Those,
sports.
those can be considered sports.
But you don't really have to be athletic to play those.
There's that athletic side to it. Yeah.
You don't have to be athletic to play table tennis. Have
No.
you seen those short
Those
tables
guys-
and those people?
Yeah, but at the same time, like look at like badminton.
Yeah.
Did Mr. Sims look athletic? And he whooped some ass.
You're talking about Mr. Sims.
But I'm just throwing it out there because he's not athletic.
Yeah,
Let's
okay.
be real.
Okay.
But he wouldn't lose.
No, but he was athletic in his own right.
And he's also playing against kids.
Yeah, but you got to remember he was athletic. See, you're looking at it as you're probably looking at athletic at a certain level. He was
So there's different levels of athleticism.
of course. Listen,
So-
I don't know who you try to take this guy. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, it's a good discussion though, because honestly, it's a great question.
No.
What?
Because there is going to be different levels, right? He was athletic in his own right, but not maybe up to what you're used to, moving about. But there's that athletic side of badminton or table tennis that you got to move around.
Let's take the athletic side of it for a second.
Golf, to me, golf is strictly just a skillful.
But let's say that basketball.
Hobby.
Let's say that basketball, as an example, everybody was out of shape and nobody could run. Nobody could run to the degree that they're running now. Would it still be considered a sport?
Yes,
What makes it a sport then?
it's what the game entails. The game entails, like, you might look at it and say, okay, let's say we have a bunch of fat kids playing and they're moving at even half the speed of anyone else.
Yeah.
Right? In their own rights, when you look at them, they're not as athletic as what we're used to seeing, but the sport is supposed to be like it's about being athletic.
Okay.
Moving about and all that. But they might not move as fast as say someone in college or something like that.
Right. And I'm not criticizing what you're saying.
Because that's why I say there's different levels,
Yeah.
right?
So what I'm thinking about, what I'm taking from that is, in order for something to be a sport, there have to be like two opposing sides that are trying to reach a goal.
But then you can say curling is a sport.
Right. No, I don't look at it that way. I think
Unless you have somebody on that side and somebody on this side
No.
that are curling at the same time.
No, let me tell you something. No, I could be wrong.
Which you usually
Right?
are. But
Okay, I'm
give
usually
you the
wrong.
benefit of the doubt.
Whatever. But I just don't look at curling as a sport. I look at it more of a skill.
Right.
So when you hear me say this, people will probably get upset. Oh, what he's saying? He doesn't give us no respect. No, I give you guys respect for you got a lot of
Skill.
skill wise. You guys can do that, but I do not look at it as a sport. Right? Basketball, volleyball, sport, all those things you're moving about and you're jumping and
Right, so hold on.
you're showing all your different athletic what?
Let me throw one at you. Have you guys ever seen Dragon Boat Racing?
Dragon, yes, I've seen Dragon Boat Racing.
Okay, so take one boat, have, let's say, 4 people on one side, 4 people on the other side, in a pool, and you have, like one of those like polo nets in the middle of the boat. The object is for the dragon boaters to paddle as fast as they can to pull the other team across, or to get
tug of war in the water.
Tug of war in water. There you go.
Yeah, but
is that a sport?
You're using their athletic ability to figure out how the outcome is going to be.
Okay.
It's not.
So they're not using their skill; they're using their athletic ability.
No, well, there's a bit of both, right? Because I guess skill wise, there's a proper
way to
technique and all that, right?
Yeah.
But it's more there's that athletic side to it. Whereas, I don't know. You can argue, like I said, I look at it differently. But you can argue that when the guys and they slide, that could be a part of showing their athletic thing. I just don't look at it that way. I just look at it strictly that's skill.
Right.
When I see someone golfing, I look at it as strictly skill. You're not showing me no athletic side of you.
All right.
And that's what I look at as a sport. It might not be the proper term, but that's what I look at it as. What do you think?
So
because you're here just you look like
taking it in. No,
I know you're taking it in.
I'm trying to understand where you're coming from.
I know, but I know you well to know when you're trying to egg me on with. Well, what does this mean? So I'm going to ask you, what is your take on it? I want to know what your take on it is. You already know how I feel about it. Darts, to me, is a hobby, a skillful hobby, but I don't look at it as a sport. Pool, skillful hobby, but I don't look at it as a sport.
Video games. What do you think?
Skillful.
Like you see how like these tournaments that are carrying on and the winners are walking away with like hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Sport. As you say, video game. Before I get back to you, see the guy that won. I think he won $1 million in video game tournament, whatever.
Yeah.
After he won, he went on the stage and he started jumping up and down because he was so happy. The man fell and broke his shoulder.
Yeah.
A career-ending injury. Is that not a sport?
So let me ask you this, Mark. Because I'll answer your question, but let me ask you this.
All right.
So, I understand your definition between skill and athletic and all this stuff. So, but all the sports, all the games that you've mentioned that you do not determine a sport, the people that play them, they don't look athletic. So, are you saying you have to?
I never said you have to look at it.
I'm not saying no. I'm not asking you if they have to look athletic. I'm asking you, is there a certain stature that someone has to meet for you to now say that it's an athletic sport? So, curling. If there was a bunch of ripped guys that everyone has to work out to throw the rock.
No.
Now is it a sport?
No. So, if right now, if I went to a skating rink and I saw you and Dean curling, I'm not calling it a fucking sport. First of all, I'm saying you guys are fucking losers. I'm gonna start off with that, and then I'm gonna say you guys need to get some skillful people here to do.
Have you ever curled before?
Yes, I actually have.
Didn't you didn't like it?
It's not for me.
He pulled something. Pulled hard.
So no, I didn't. It's not for me.
Okay. Can you tell this man really hates curling?
I wouldn't say I really hate it. I'm just saying it's not a sport. Now, back to you. What do you think?
I don't think it's a sport either.
Okay, so you're making it fucking guy.
Shit.
Dean?
Man. I don't know. I want to take the middle of the road. I don't know. I mean, there's a goal. There are two people competing for that goal. So to me, I guess it would classify as a sport as anything else.
More of a challenge. Right. So, but his definitions make sense, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So,
let's get the official word. What's the definition of a sport?
an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which the individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. Team sports such as baseball and soccer.
Okay. So by that definition, you're right. It eliminates curling because there's no exertion in that.
No, well, yeah.
Not so. There's a minimal amount of exertion.
Nah, there's none.
You don't know how heavy that rock
Yeah,
is.
actually, yeah, I do. It's not heavy.
Sorry, lift up your arm again and say that. It's not heavy to you. You lift boulders for a living.
Yeah.
So that eliminates darts because there's no exertion there.
That's just the way I look at it. I mean,
I'm going by that definition you just read.
I know a lot of people will disagree that are in those sports. But
that are in those games.
yeah,
we
sorry.
got to change the name.
Yeah,
It's not sports, it's games.
in those games or whatever. But I just don't look at it that way.
So let's start a Tiddlywinks tournament. And let's say it's a sport.
A tickle tits tournament? What?
Wow. Tickle Tits tournament? Yeah, let's start a Tickle Tits tournament.
Oh boy.
Hey man, I'm telling you, you get the major athletes out there that are making millions of dollars or whatnot. Let's start running the games that we were running at your house in the backyard for shots, for like real points and real prizes and trophies and what have you. And
It'll get competitive.
absolutely.
But it's still not a fucking sport. I'm just letting you guys know I'm still on topic.
Bean bags thrown for different point levels, competitively, two factions doing it at the same time, time limit involved, most points at the end of the time limit wins. You can put it in quarters if you want to, or halves.
It's called a game.
It's called a game. You get enough people playing it across, let's say, nationally.
And we can
Is it still a game at that point, or is it
we
a
can
sport?
get it in the Olympics.
It's still a game. It doesn't change.
So once it makes it into the
It
Olympics,
doesn't change the parameters.
does it change the stature if it gets into the Olympics?
No. Just because it gets in the Olympics doesn't mean that it's a sport.
What don't,
You know what? The Olympics is all about money and anything you can put in there that's for money. Listen, if guys wanted to, like you said, play Tiddlywinks and they want to put it in the Olympics and people want to watch it, it's going to be there. But it still doesn't change the fact that it's not a sport.
Well, what was the definition again?
It says
what was it? Two people.
it's an activity involving physical exertion.
Throwing bean bags?
Huh?
Keep going, throwing bean bags. Physical exertion. We'll just change the distance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's where it might be skewed, but you would always go with the lesser of the physical exertion. Kind of like how you got real superheroes and then you got Batman. So, an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment.
You got teams headed up by LeBron. You got teams headed up by Mr. Curry there. You set the beanbag thing way out, and you have different levels. You have your 20, you have your 40, you have your 60. Two teams competing, time limit, trophies at the end. Make it go national. Get it into the Olympics.
Dean,
Every time you miss
Dean.
to make it more interesting for entertainment. Did you say for entertainment?
Yep, for entertainment.
Let's make it happen, people. Maple Leaf Entertainment. Let's make it happen.
So you want to see LeBron and Curry get drunk? That's what you're looking for.
Would that not make good entertainment?
So you consider it a sport?
If it gets big enough,
Just
yeah.
by taking some athletes and throwing them in curling doesn't make it a sport.
We're not talking about curling. We're talking
know.
about beanbags.
It doesn't matter. I'm just letting you know. It doesn't make it a sport. So I don't know why you even brought those two into it.
By the definition, it hits all the markers.
So now that we know what a sport and a game is, do you think
So Batman is skillful.
so he can't play sports?
But he can't. He's not a sport.
He just plays games.
If we're looking at it, and
plays games. Let's use that analogy on everything. Skill or athletic? Skill is a game, athletic is a sport. That's what we're going to break everything down.
No, but sport is
Both. I know.
Right.
But game, there is no athleticism.
no.
Game, there is no athleticism?
No.
Well, then it would be a sport then. After you get a couple shots in you. Anything that you do with skill is a sport.
Again, like the thing I said about Batman. Come on. It's the same thing, dude.